You walk into a room and within 4 seconds, you've read every single person in it. And you don't just notice it, you feel entirely responsible for it. You become an expert in everyone else's feelings because a long time ago, that was exactly the job. And it still doesn't feel optional. You didn't start watching this to fix your helpfulness. You're here because you're quietly furious and you don't know why. You said yes again. You genuinely didn't want to. Every single instinct in your body meant no. And yet you heard yourself say, yeah, of course, no worries, happy to. And now you're driving to do the exact thing you never wanted to do. So let's start right there. People-pleasing has been sold to you as a virtue your entire life. But let's be entirely clear about what it actually is. It isn't kindness. Real kindness fills you up. This completely empties you. Saying yes is just how you manage the deep anxiety of not being liked, of being rejected, or of what happens if you suddenly stop being useful. It works perfectly for about an hour, and then it quietly bills you later. And here's the ultimate tell. The exact moment resentment walks into the room, you're already people-pleasing. Resentment, but that's the receipt. It's a Sunday afternoon. Your phone buzzes face down on the table. And before you've even turned it over, your stomach does a massive backflip. Because you already know. It's them. They're going to ask you for something. You already know you're going to say yes. And you're already furious about it before they've even asked. That right there, that visceral flicker of dread at a name on a screen, isn't a normal cost of being a good friend. That's your own body frantically waving a flag it's been waving for years, trying to tell you that you're paying for these yeses in a currency that you're completely out of. You aren't dreading them. You're dreading the version of you that automatically shows up the second they need something. You'll completely rearrange your entire week for someone who wouldn't move a single lunch for you. You'll drive across town, cover the shift, stay back, lend the money, hold the space, and twist yourself into an absolute pretzel just to guarantee everyone else is comfortable. And then, sitting alone in your car afterwards, a hot little wave hits you. You feel entirely used, taken for granted, and you immediately feel guilty for feeling that way because they didn't force you to do it, you offered. You always offer. But notice what's actually happening. You gave far past the point of anything reasonable, and no thank you was ever going to be big enough because you weren't actually doing it for gratitude. You were doing it to stay safe. And a body that gives from fear doesn't get filled by gratitude. It just keeps the tab open. The resentment isn't a character flaw. It's simply the honest part of you keeping score because the rest of you refuse to. Notice something. None of this is you being weak or bad at boundaries or too nice for your own good. Every single one of these is your body running the exact same protection job on autopilot over and over. And there's a reason it learned to do that. Here's the undeniable truth sitting underneath every single one of those moments. The yes was never really about them. Somewhere a long time ago, you learned that your worth had to be earned. And that people-pleasing was exactly how you paid for it. Think about the kid you were. In a lot of homes, love, praise, and peace only showed up when you did everything perfectly right. Being a good kid meant keeping everyone else okay. It meant not making a fuss, not having big needs, and absolutely not rocking a boat that was already rocking. Maybe you were the easy one, the one who never gave any trouble. Maybe you learned to carefully read a parent's mood because getting it wrong had a massive cost. And a child in that environment draws a quiet, wordless conclusion. If I'm good, if I'm useful, if I keep everyone happy, then I get to be safe. Then I get to be loved. And right underneath that the engine that really runs the show, then I get to be enough. So you built an entire self around it. You became lovely, helpful, and endlessly reliable. The one everyone can count on. And it worked because it genuinely kept you safe. But you also quietly signed a contract that said your worth is strictly conditional. And the condition is that you can never, ever stop giving. That's exactly why you can't just stop, and why willpower never fixes it. Saying no doesn't feel like simply setting a boundary. It feels like risking the one single thing that ever made you feel like you were allowed to be here. You aren't addicted to helping. You're terrified that without it, you're not enough. Here's the most hopeful thing you'll ever hear about this. That belief was added to you. You weren't born believing you had to earn your place. You were taught it, handed to you by a house, a childhood, and a set of conditions you never agreed to. And anything you were taught, you can finally begin to unlearn. Nobody unlearns a deeply ingrained survival strategy in a single weekend, but here's where it begins. Stop trusting the instant yes. The yes that flies out of your mouth before you've even thought isn't a decision. It's just the old reflex protecting you. Buy yourself a gap. You're allowed to not answer immediately. Say, let me check and get back to you. That one sentence is a complete boundary. It puts a heavy door between the request and the reflex, giving you space to ask the question you never got to ask as a kid. Do I actually want to do this? Or am I just scared of what happens if I don't? When you say no, simply say no. No essays. No 5-paragraph justifications to frantically prove that you're still a good person. Over-explaining is just the people-pleasing engine sneaking right back in through the back door. Say, I can't make that work, but I hope it goes well. That's it. You don't owe anyone the footnotes. Don't argue with the guilt. When the guilt comes, and it will hit hard, because guilt is exactly what a nervous system feels when it breaks an old rule. Don't obey it. Just name it for what it is. Say to yourself, this is guilt, not proof I did something wrong. It's just the old rule breaking. That guilt isn't a sign you're a bad person. It's the exact feeling of a boundary going in for the absolute first time. Every single time you let it be there without folding, the old rule gets a little quieter, and the real you gets a little louder. If you've spent your entire life being the giver, the fixer, and the easy one who never needs anything, and you've been quietly furious underneath it all while hating yourself for the fury, listen to this. The resentment was never the problem. It was the messenger. It was the absolute last honest part of you refusing to disappear completely. You were never too much for simply wanting something back. You just learned far too early that you had to earn your place by giving your entire self away. And that was a complete lie. A convincing one, told to you before you were old enough to know it was a lie, but a lie all the same. You don't have to earn the right to exist. You never did. You were enough before you ever said a single yes.